Our CES 2024 coverage is made possible by Thermaltake, Azus, XPG, AlphaCool, CableMod, and Patriot. What's up guys, welcome back to another GGF video. I'm Stuart and today we are at the XPG CES 2024 Suite. Now there is actually a lot of gear to check out here. We have some new cases, we even have a workstation. We have this new ecosystem XPG are pushing out for their peripherals, which is pretty crazy. And then we have some fans and some more. So first off, we'll take a look at this case here. Now, I actually did all of these three builds here. You may have noticed the Invader X in the white chassis over here. That is already on my channel. I did that about a month ago. We won't really cover that again. That is a nice little chassis and it does have the back motherboard support already built in. So that is nice. Moving on to the far left one, we won't cover that. The far left one is an old one that was actually at their Computex booth. That was mid last year, but what we want to cover is this middle one here, this big boy here. This is the Invader X Pro and it does come in the black and the white. Obviously this one is the black chassis. Now, I'm not going to spend too long with this glass on, but I want to quickly just talk about what's going on here on the outside. We have glass at the front, we have glass on the side, and we have glass that wraps around the top. Now, we've seen a lot of glass cases coming out at the moment. Normally, they're a three-piece design. The top slides off, the side slides off, and normally the front slides out. But this one is one piece. I'm going to take this out. This is quite fragile, and we all know making this curved tempered glass is not easy. And then this just comes off like this, and as you can see, that is the curve there, and it's just something different. Something we haven't really seen before. We're used to those very boxy, traditional style cases, and this is just something that's out there. Even more so inside, it is different once again. They haven't just gone with the all glass surround, they've gone with a different layout with the three fans at the top. So 360 at the top, that's where this new all-in-one cooler is. And this is also something new from XPG as well. This is the Levante Pro, and it does have the screen on there as well. And what we have on the screens, even the one on the chassis, that's just playing through their mascot, which I believe is their mirror. But you can also run temps, and this screen down below, I do have some photos on my website. It is, you can hook that up with some stats and show like your CPU temperatures and all that. But talking a little bit more on the case, we've got 360 support at the top, 360 on the side. If you did go with something like a 240, you could do a 480 up the top, 360 down the bottom, and then 240 on the rear. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 fans in the system, and that's pretty decent there. And you may notice that this motherboard is quite low, and that's because we've got those banker fans up the top, and it's something just a little bit different. I don't think there's many cases out there. Definitely in this, I wouldn't say it's orientation. This is your standard ATX orientation, but it's just a little bit different with everything sunken down, and then you have those row of fans at the top. There's nothing at the rear of this case. It's not a dual-sided chassis. It's your standard layout with the PSU down the bottom, and you can actually unscrew this little area here, and then this slides out, and that gives you access to the screen. I won't take this out all the way because there are some cables, and then you have access to the PSU and so on, and that can just pop back in like that. And then you've also got the fan bracket down the bottom, and that one can lift up and give you access in there as well. But yeah, I had a pretty good time building this chassis. They didn't want any custom work done on this case at all. This is at the moment one of one. They only have one of these cases. I had to keep it completely stock. Couldn't do a custom loop, had to go with an all-in-one cooler only, so just had to leave it as is. But I'll be really keen to get this in for a review. I would really like the white version. Hopefully that has clear tempered glass on it. It's not really tinted because I do like that when you can see inside. But yeah, I'd love to do this for a custom loop, see what funky ideas I can come up with, and yeah. Now we've all heard about reverse flow fans, we've heard of normal flow fans, but XPG have sort of come up with a different way around that. So these fans are both reverse flow and normal flow without swapping the blade. So what they do is, these are spinning one orientation. So let's just say, I can't actually tell which way they're going. So say this is normal flow. We can press this button on the side here. These are daisy chainable. They are connected by the magnets. I will rip one out once I turn it off. So what you do is you press this button. So now they're slowing down. That essentially stops them. Then we press the button again, and now that light goes to blue, and now that has switched the flow to the other direction. Now that saves you from having to get fans that have different blades to do that flow, or buy completely different fans altogether. So I'll show you that once again. that is actually blowing. I'm pretty sure that's blowing inside the box because I can feel it bouncing out. I can press that button. Actually didn't press. I can press that button. Red means they're all stopping. I'll just stop it to speed it up. And then I can press it again. And now they are all spinning the other way. And that is just changing the direction of the flow. Now, I can't believe no one has done this before. Like, obviously you can't do this on a standard fan, you just can't change the polarity. There is some special electronics behind it, but it's just amazing that they've actually done this in the one fan without having to get multiple parts, different fan blades and different fans. So I'm gonna stop this again and just pull these out so we can see how these connect together. Once again, like I always say, I'll get some B-roll on this, and as you can see, simple design. It's got 2 notches there that'll actually connect into the fan, and then we have the magnetic system there, and that's it. It just holds it in place, and then I can grab this, connect it back in. This one is, yep, back in like that. Press the button, and then they all start up, and then away we go. More info on these are a prototype. Any information I get on these, like prices, links, any more information, I'll always put them in the description rather than trying to find them out. And if I say them in the video, they could be wrong. And then once they're in the video, they're stuck there for good. So I prefer to keep things like prices, release dates and all that in the description. Moving on to something else that's innovative from XPG. This here was what I would probably say is like an all-in-one cooler, but it's an air cooler. So this is like a 120 all-in-one cooler, but goes directly onto your CPU. Now you can see this here. Now what XPG is saying, this is sort of the middle grounds between an air cooler and something like a 360, 240 all-in-one cooler. Of course, it's not going to have that cooling performance to like a 360 all-in-one cooler, but this thing is super small. So for companies like SIs wanting to bridge that gap and get that little bit more performance from an air cooler, this is what you want to go for. Now they're calling this the XPG hybrid cooler. It is basically a pump at the top. This is an OEM, it's not an in-house pump. It's nothing from Acertech. It's an external OEM third-party company. It is patented, and then that goes on the top. Then you have your 120 radiator on there, and then obviously it just goes through the radiator, and then you have the direct cold plate there, which goes onto your CPU. Support for this will be like all your Threadripper, all your consumer AMDs, and your consumer Intels, just not the current Xeon. That's the only sort of downside for this. It just won't cover that. But I think for the amount of people who use that, it's probably not really in their range anyway for this product. But we can see on the back, I'll get some B-roll of this one. This is more of the finished product with the fans on it. And then we have a nice RGB cover just to cap it off. So basically from here, it looks exactly like a standard tower air cooler, but you are getting that sort of all-in-one compatibility in that unit. Moving over to some laptops over here. Now, for you guys that didn't know, yes, XPG do laptops as well, and these are pretty high end. We have 2 here. We have the Xenia 15G and also the Xenia 16X. Now, we'll just take a look on mainly this one here. This one is beefed out to the max. This one can come up to an i9. Currently, this one has a 14700 HX, but you can throw in an i9 if you need. Now, we can just look at this and just see how much cooling there is. The difference between the 15G and the 16X is the 16X is a little bit beefier. In terms of that, when I mean beefier, not in terms of laptop size, it's actually a little bit slimmer, but it is beefy in terms of the cooling. It does run the vapor chamber, where this one just runs heat pipes and fans, which makes it a little bit thicker. But just take a look at all of the gear in here. We have 3 NVMe SSDs, and on the spec card here, these are all 8 terabytes. So we have 24 terabytes of storage in this laptop, and then we also have 2 DIMM modules. Now these aren't soldered, these are swappable, but when you get this decked out, you probably don't want to swap these. Both of these are each 48 gigabytes each, so we have a total of 96 gigabytes of memory. So we have 24 terabytes of storage, nearly 100 gigabytes of memory in this laptop. So we have basically a portable powerhouse. And when it comes to AI, XPG aren't pushing like dedicated AI chips. It's not aimed for like AI processing. For them, their AI move is to give you as much storage, as much memory as AI needs that as well. So you can just pack this out, and whatever you're doing, crunching numbers, whatever you're using this for, you have the storage and the memory to back that up. Onto some peripherals here. Now there is a whole ecosystem XPG have been working hard on, but before we look at that, this gaming headset here, this one is super light. This is the Precog Studio gaming headset. Now, XPG are really diving deep into their peripherals at the moment. Now, you might just think this is a standard headset, but some interesting things with this is it uses a 4.4 millimeter audio jack. Now, I didn't even know that existed. So some advantages of this, the grounding is separate for the left and right. So on a standard 3.5 mil, the grounding is shared, so you are due to possible crosstalk. So that's why the 4.4 mil jack is better. It has better clarity. And then the reason why we have two jacks going into this unit here is for the microphone connected to it. And this little unit here is what's sort of driving the headset. This runs a triple ESS DAC, and then that runs into the USB-C. Now I tested this before, and this sounded amazing. Now this is meant to price around 60 to 70 US dollars. XPG was saying just the price of something like a good DAC like this for a headset is going to be upwards of 60, and then a headset of this caliber, or a headset that uses 4.4 millimeter audio jacks at the moment, like a Sony or something, is going to cost you about $150. So for a unit like this, this is a very decent price unit. And as I said before, I tested it and it sounded really good. And another thing is the ear cups are going to be removable. I'll try and get this out now. And you can swap this to different ones in the future. This is still a prototype, sort of interesting to see what other colors. They did say there will be a white one coming out. And I just want to know your thoughts on this red. Would you prefer something like an all black? I know XPG are red. I know a lot of brands get stuck into their logo's red, their theme is red, so then they want all of their peripherals to come out in red. I just want to know your thoughts on that. Would you prefer something like all black, maybe a black and gray, or when the white one comes out, would you prefer it to be all white, and so on? Now this over here is really interesting. XPG are saying this is the most advanced wireless ecosystem out at the moment. Now what this uses is a ultra wideband system. Now we all know your standard wireless systems from your keyboard mouse uses that 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Now I have had a lot of information fed to me, so I do apologize if I have to throw up some extra info on the screens if I get something wrong, but there is a lot to cover here and a lot of different specs in terms of like frequency, speeds, and so on. So the way that ultra wideband works, it's different to 2.4 gigahertz. Basically 2.4 gigahertz is your wireless protocol, whereas the UWB ultra wideband uses a completely different protocol. And we want to know your 2.4 gigahertz system it's very crowded, and you do get a lot of dropouts here and there with your USB interference and so on. So XPG have moved to this new protocol. I wouldn't say it's a new protocol. For you guys who are familiar how the Apple AirTags, or pretty much any AirTag, they all use the ultra wideband system, where that's how it does the positional tracking. I'll talk a little about that later on, and XPG have also incorporated that into this setup as well. But some of the other features on the mouse, so the polling rate on, or the highest polling rate you can get on a standard wireless mouse, or the best you can get, is 4,000 hertz or 4K hertz for the polling rate. When you plug it in for wide, some of the new mice at the moment we've seen announced at CES can do up to 8K. This one here is completely wireless, and it can do 8K in its wireless mode. Same with the keyboard as well, completely wireless. And mind you, all of these three are being connected by this one transmitter. So all three, no issues at all. And then the headset, that's another thing we can talk about just on its own. Standard headsets, like a good gaming headset from say HyperX Steel Series, has about a latency of about 45 milliseconds. This one has a latency of 5 milliseconds because it's using that UWB protocol. It's not using the 2.4 gigahertz wireless setup, and same with the keyboard as well. And then, as I said before about the tracking positional area, you can actually, in their software, I'll get it on the screen so you can see it, you can set up your transmitter and it will know where your mouse is placed, it will know where the keyboard is, it will know where the headset is. So when you're setting up your RGB setup, if you have your global RGB in a certain pattern, it'll just know where that all is. So you don't have to set up your mouse or your so on when it flows over. And also with your headset, when you take it off the stand and you put it on your head, the software, the Prime software from XPG knows that you've moved the headset off the stand onto your head. So you can use that for things like field of view. If you're moving closer to your screen, further away, or closer to the receiver or further away, it knows that, and you can configure all of that in the Prime software. So at the moment, it's still a bit of a prototype in that area. They're just playing around with it. They're trying to see different ideas on how they can improve and use that positional tracking for different areas and so on. Alrighty guys, lastly, I want to check out some of these Workstation chassis from XPG before we wrap this video up. We have the Defender WS XL and Defender WS XXL. So double XL, single XL, and as the name says, WS, these are purely workstation orientated. Doesn't mean you need it for a workstation. You can use it for anything you want because there is a lot of internal support in, I would say, this one here. This has given me something like 1000D vibes. It's not as wide. You all know me, my V3000, I worked with Leanne on that one. The V3000 Plus is giving me those sort of vibes, and it's really nice to see a high-end, high-quality chassis coming from XPG. We have a very nice aluminum top, aluminum front, a bunch of I/O on the top, and then inside there's this jam-packed amount of cooling you can put in there. And these have been set up here for the AI learning setup that XPG have been doing. If you followed my content for Computex last year, we looked at their Project Zeus, which had their quad, their 4 4090s running in that open clear acrylics box, and we could show you those 4 GPUs running off their 1 PSU. This is Project Zeus 2. So Computex was Project Zeus 1. This is Project Zeus 2. This is more of a portable version they can take around with them. They can use on shows. They can show how they're doing their AI learning, show how their PSUs can load under 3 or 4 GPUs and so on. But now they have a proper chassis they can showcase this setup in. More about this one here. We have a full EK water-cooled system inside it for all the cooling. There is a quad radiator at the top, so a 480 at the top, 480 on the side, bunch of fans at the front, and then we have the EK distro, or the manifold they call it, at the front, and that's just feeding 1 row is in, 1 row is out, and that's feeding to the CPU block, to each of the GPU blocks, and then back in. And then we have your standard FLT 120 down the bottom. And the good thing that they're pushing with this workstation chassis is it can take 2 PSUs. It's going to be really hard to show you this physically, but there are 2 PSUs down the bottom. They stand up sideways, 1 at the front here, and then 1 at the back. Once again, pricing and all that, I will throw in the description because I haven't really been told much about this case at the moment. For the front here, they're going to do an option where it'll come with some of these hot swap bays. It's a good idea that I haven't decked it all out because that's going to bump the price up. They're going to give you about 2, which I think most of the other larger cases do out at the moment. I think Leanne Lee normally give you about 2 of these cages, and then you can order more if you want to fill it up with 5 cages. Each one can take 2, so that will give you 10 drives. If you're still into mechanical storage, you can beef that up with 10 hard drives for like a couple of 100 terabytes of storage if that's your thing. If not, you can rip these out, you can remove this bar. I think you can remove this bar as well, and then you can just go with a full decked out water-cooled system. Another cool thing, I was just about to forget this, what they're going to do. This is a standard quad M.2 card. We all know these. It's a 16 by slot card. It'll do 4x4 by 4 by 4 by or by 4 by 4 by 4 by 4 bifurcated link. What that is this case is going to have this card built in. You might see this PCIe riser cable right here. This runs out down the back, and this slots into the back of the case. So instead of having to jam this in between your GPUs, whether they're air-cooled, water-cooled, whichever, they may run a bit warm. This will run out the back. You can put your actual M.2 heatsinks on this. You don't have to worry about feeding this in between cards or anything. This will run at the back, and there's a dedicated slot. And I have been told that this chassis will come with the riser cable and this card when you purchase the case, so that's all in one. And that will definitely beef up the price a little bit, but it shouldn't be too much. But as I said earlier, I'm not too sure on the price on this case. And for motherboard support, I'm just looking at this now. I've recently built a Xeon system with the W790 Sage, and this is running that same board. And I can see there is a heap of room inside. There's clearance for your 24-pin, plenty of room for all your other connectors and so on. But yeah, it's interesting to see the wide range of gear that XPG has, from their laptops, from their standard consumer cases, from their peripherals, from their new fans coming out. They've even got memory and SSDs. We covered a lot of that at Computex. I'm not going to cover that again here. And then we also have these workstation cases here. But yeah, that's pretty much it for covering XPG. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.